Good evening and welcome to the Springfield School District Board of School Directors regular board meeting, November 21st, 2024. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first up, we have the Springfield High School Blue Ribbon Recognition. Dr. Hepp.
Good evening, Board of School Directors, and it's great to be back here again to officially, it's now official, a team of teachers, myself and Dr. Conlon went to Washington, D.C. on November 8th and went to the actual ceremony, and there we received our official blue ribbon plaque, which I'll hand up to you to pass around and take a look at. So I'm going to do that. I'll do it now. That way you can kind of look at it while we. Yeah. So they limited the number of guests that could attend the ceremony, so it was pretty challenging to zero in on individuals to invite down. And the two teachers that went with us have just done an exemplary job at the high school, Phil Lee and Dr. Stephanie Lewis. Just two great members of our faculty, you know, have definitely gone on board with our shared vision for our high school, that we strive for academic excellence, at the same time providing wonderful opportunities for our students across our pillars, and we just try to provide the best balanced high school experience that we can for our students. So it was a great pleasure to be able to go and be in the presence of over about 300 schools or so across the states, one of 13 schools in the state of Pennsylvania, one of 3 high schools in the state of Pennsylvania. So it was really an honor, and it was kind of awe-inspiring to see all the individuals there, all the schools, the principals, the teachers, just beaming with pride. So it was a wonderful experience. So we're glad that the day has finally come, that it's official. So we have the plaque. They have sent us a banner as well.
Oh.
There you go.
Very nice. Very nice.
And I think we're going to get some more banners and hang them around town and around the school, right? Is that the plan?
Yes, we have some plans to put some signage on the buildings, some signs on windows and such like that. I believe we have permission from the township to put some light pole banners up as well.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's not over. You know, this is just the next in the step of officially honoring our staff and our faculty here at the high school, as well as across the district, for the great work that they do. And I know we have some celebrations forthcoming in the near future, so that's ahead for us. But again, I can't thank the board enough for all of your support. You truly do allow us to, you equip us with your leadership to make this vision a reality, to have one of the top standing high schools in the state and in the country. And of course our teachers and our support staff and everybody that contributes, all the way down to our cafeteria workers and our custodial staff, just makes it a great place to be. And when it's a great place to be, great things like this happen. So we're very proud of it. I do have some additional good news. We, as you know, every year we are issued a building level score from the state for our performance. It's primarily based off of our Keystone performance, our Keystone growth, our attendance, and our graduation rates. And over the past, I would say, 10 years or so, we've ranked fairly high in the state. And this year, our number just came out last week. We earned a score of 92.4 for our building level score for the state. This is for the high school. And it ranks us, we're tied for 8th place in the state for traditional public high schools, and we're tied for 11th for all high schools in the state. So we're holding firm, holding strong on our state level performance. being in the top 10 for traditional public high schools in the state. So great things to come as well around the bend. So we're really excited. Again, I'm deeply honored and blessed to be chosen to be the principal of this fantastic high school. I truly do not take that lightly. I really don't. It's not something that I treat lightly. I take it on as a significant responsibility to serve the families of these communities and to make sure that we equip their children with the skills that they'll need to be successful day to day here, but as well as beyond. So I'm grateful for that. I want you to know that. And congratulations to you. Congratulations to our teachers here. Congratulations to our community as well. It's a tremendous honor, and we're very proud. Thank you.
Could you just take 1 minute and, because I think the most impressive thing about this award is, unlike other designations and things, there's really, other than being a great school, there's nothing you can do to advance your ability to get this award. So if you could maybe tell us like kind of how that happens. I believe the state nominates several schools. You know how it works.
Yeah, so it does. This isn't something that you apply for. This isn't something that you throw your name into the hat for. There are state level, I would say, agencies or state level representatives that are tasked with nominating schools on an annual basis. So they sit back and they look at schools and how they're performing across the Commonwealth, and as you can see, by our score here, we're certainly at the top. So it starts with them and selecting schools that they wish to put forth for nomination, and then those names go to Washington, D.C., and then we were informed, I think on February 7th, we received a notification that we were nominated, and then there's a very detailed and lengthy application process that Dr. Conlon was very kind enough to spearhead for us. And once you complete the application and submit it, then it's screened at the federal level, and it's kicked back to the state level to make sure that our scores are valid, that everything's on the up and up. And probably, and I think around September, we were notified of our final designation. So yeah, we really, nothing we did other than just doing our jobs day by day, which is what we do here. So it paid off for us this time around.
Well, keep doing it.
I plan to. We plan to.
We don't have to tell you how proud we are. We've had lots of conversations, but make sure your team and everybody in the school knows that we're super proud. It's a great accomplishment.
Great. If they're not tuning in tonight, I'll definitely convey that to them. Yeah.
I thought they'd all be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for everything you do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I was even thinking on election day, I actually had people stopping me in line and coming up to me and congratulating on the school. So, yeah, so I was just echoing to them, thank you. And yes, we're super proud of the team. We're super proud just to be a part of it. So thanks so much for all that you're doing. Thanks so much that you guys are doing, and to our entire community. So thanks. We can't wait to see what the celebration, and we can't see about all the, that's part of the ed committee that happened, but we can't wait to see what's going to be happening to celebrate this great achievement.
Yeah.
So thanks.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Abbott.
All right. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Dr.
I
Hutt.
appreciate it.
Oh, you're taking it back? I thought that was for us. What do we get? That's awesome.
Thank you again.
Thank you. All right, next up we have public comment. Just as a reminder, when you get to the podium, please say your name and either your address or confirm that the address on the sign-in sheet is correct. We limit you to 3 minutes. First up, Mr. Lee.
Good evening. Michael Lee, 123 West Sylvan Avenue, Morton, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, United States of America. Members of the board, members of the public, it'll be 61 years ago today, tomorrow, the very day, on a Friday, November 22nd, 1963, that one of the finest men to hold the presidency, John F. Kennedy, was tragically assassinated in Dallas, Texas. As I've said many times over the years, it was horrific. It changed our country for the worse. I believe we'd be a better country and perhaps a better world if the president had lived to complete his term, and most likely he would have had a second term. But also on that day, too, others have become the forgotten figures on that day. The governor of Texas, John Connally, was very severely wounded, and he nearly died from his injuries. And a police officer of the Dallas Police Department, J.D. Tippit, was also murdered that day, possibly as a part of the plot to kill the president. It'll be 1:30 p.m. tomorrow Eastern Standard Time, so if you can possibly think of it, give a thought of remembrance for that day, and two, for the families for the Kennedy, Connally, and the Tippit families. Next Thursday, November 28th, will be Thanksgiving, as we all know. So wherever you go, whether you celebrate the day or not, that's up to you. But if you're going to be on the road, please drive safe. There's too many knuckleheads out there who will hit you just as soon as look at you. And I think it would behoove all of us to find something that we can at least be thankful for. One of the things I'm thankful for right now is that this district has a fine group of folks leading it in positions of school directors and school administrators. So thank you all for listening. Good night. May God bless all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Next up, we have Susan Knoll.
Good evening. My name is Susan Knoll, and I live at 32 South Britton Road. First, I would like to congratulate the Springfield High School on being named a National Blue Ribbon School. Now, everyone else knows what we, the residents and parents, have known all along. Springfield is a great place to learn and to grow up. I wanted to take just a few minutes of your time this evening to talk about the teachers in this district. I come here tonight as a parent of two alumni, Stephen, class of 2017, and Shane, class of 2020. Now that my children are grown, leaving the nest, getting married, and starting their own lives, when they reflect back on the memories of Springfield, it is not the education that they fondly remember. Yeah, of course, the education gave them the stepping stones to help them become who they are today, and our district has incredible things to offer students. But what they fondly remember all these years later are the teachers. It is not uncommon then for them to say, hey, remember when, before launching into a story about a teacher. Some of the memories include elementary teachers like Mrs. Miller, Mr. Lapoli running clubs after school like cup stacking, rollerblading, and of course, Indiana Jones. Or Mrs. Ford's good deed yard where they got to have lunch with her. Or Mrs. Connor calling the house in the morning when they were upset about going to school. She would check in with words of encouragement that would get him out the door. They remember middle school teachers, Mr. and Mrs. Stewart and Mrs. Boyer, coming to their high school hockey games to cheer them on, and them getting all dressed up to go to Mr. and Mrs. Pizzica's wedding when they were in 8th grade. As a parent, I remember Mrs. Pizzica sending me a note when my last child moved on to the high school, telling me what a pleasure it was to know my children. A note I still carry today. And who could forget walking in the pouring rain at Dorney Park with Mrs. Boyer after a band competition. High school brought a new assortment of memories, like many hours talking and working after school and weekends on elaborate projects in Mr. Trott's class, and how he made them write handwritten thank you notes for all the free materials they received. And talking fishing with Mr. Ash as they built small model homes. They remember band trips to Dorney and Toronto, all organized by the band and chorus teachers, and Thon, where teachers like Mr. Allen and Mr. Brown gave up their time to entertain them. My son Stephen recalls Mr. Gallen going in early so he could meet with him to help him when he was struggling. He just needed to email him the night before and he would meet him there the next morning. As adults, they appreciate teachers like Mr. Smith and others who continue to hire alumni to work in their homes. Now, this is just a small sampling of the memories and the teachers they bring up nowadays, as there's not enough time in the night to cover it all. The conversations with the teachers that taught them have also changed since their pre-adult years. So you might ask why. There is a theme here. Most of these memories about the teachers, not what they've learned, but ones that gave of themselves to create memories, foster relationships, and help kids find places to belong and find the best versions of themselves. I have often been told that my husband and I did a great job raising our sons, but what I say to that is it takes a village to raise kids, and I'm incredibly thankful for the Springfield School District teachers that were part of my village. This community is incredibly lucky to have every one of them. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate it. Okay, next we have items for public information. First, we have the June 30th, 2024 audit report. Mr. Hogan.
I went ahead and kind of consolidated everything into just a couple slides, so we didn't have to go through the 80-page report. So I just want to kind of go over the highlights. Prior to tonight, I met with the Finance Committee, and we kind of went over the report more in detail and had, conversation with, between me and the Finance Committee. Everything went great. Everybody was able to answer questions. I'll answer any questions anybody has tonight. But like I said, I kind of consolidated it into about 5 slides here. This is for June 30th, 2024. And the first slide I put here is just the independent auditor's report. The thing that I'd like to highlight the most is, just as in previous years, you have an unmodified audit opinion, basically stating that the numbers that were presented to us by management to audit were fairly presented. There were no adjustments to anything you saw in June as part of your reporting per the board. It was being directly reflected in the audit report here tonight. You're going to hear, I said this in the Finance Committee, to the back of the audit report, just because of the fact that we don't audit the budgeted numbers, but I think it's really important in context when you're kind of reflecting back on the year ended June 30th, 2024. And the thing I like about the MD&A as well, it gives management also the opportunity to not only talk about what happened in 2024, but to talk about the future and what's going to impact the school district in the future. Since the audit is a historical document, it just, you want to put everything in context. Hey, where were we? Where are we now? And what's going to impact the school district moving forward? The next slide I put together, kind of got cut off here, is just the general fund budget versus actual report. We kind of went over this in detail. We had it blown out between all the different functions during the Finance Committee. But as you can see there, your revenues, in previous years, recently, your revenues have really accelerated just in terms of real estate transfer taxes and some of those other taxes that were impacted by the economy. 2024 is a year where we kind of saw a slowdown related to that. We did see an impact in your investment income, but where you're going to see here is your revenues. They did decrease a little bit year over year, and that's all being impacted by primarily related to one big taxpayer in the current year that didn't, that is under disputing their tax assessment appeal. And I imagine you'll get those taxes, at some point moving forward, but that's the reason why the revenues had decreased. And also there was a decrease in real estate transfer taxes. So that kind of velocity you had with the increase in the revenues kind of, evened off in 2023, 2024. But overall, even with those impacting, we had some positive variances in some other revenue accounts. So kind of as a break even in relation to $87 million. But when we look at expenditures, your expenditures are actually $1.8 million less than budget. And as you can see right down there at the slide, there was a lot of things that impacted the expenditures and them being under budget, particularly as it relates to salaries. There were some changes. The original budget was put out. There were some changes in staffing. Some lower staff people came in, lower paid staff came in to replace some higher paid staff. And also, which is also unusual in relation to other years, you actually had some savings in relation to special ed contracted services during the current year. I know we've had conversations where that's come in over a little budget in previous years, but we had the opposite in the current year. And then also your transportation expenditures were less than budget. So when we look at the increase in your fund balance of the $1.2 million we're looking at there, it's primarily all being impacted by, where in previous years it was being impacted by revenues, now it's being impacted by better than anticipated expenditures. So fund balance for the general fund at the beginning of the year was $10.1 million, increased $1.2 million for an ending fund balance of $11.4 million at the end of the year. And you can see the variances on the right-hand side. The next slide I put together is the general fund balance, and we're going to spend some time on this. There's that $11.3 million that I just spoke about in relation to what your general fund balance is, and in accordance with Pennsylvania State Code, anything in excess over 8% of your next year's general fund expenditure budget, you have to go ahead and what we call commit fund balance or assign fund balance to get yourself within the 8%. So for the current year, your fund balance is broken out as follows. You have a line item called prepaid items, and all the prepaid items is the $2.6 million is your reserve with the Delaware County Healthcare Trust. So there's amounts sitting on hand, assets and liabilities, and the excess of those assets over the liabilities is available to, kind of like they require you to have a reserve there in case you have a bad experience year, et cetera, and keep a buffer. So it kind of smooths out your claims or your premiums moving forward. So in case you have a bad year, you have some buffer there, and your premiums aren't, bouncing up and down, going up, going down, and that's able to, smooth that out. And it's within the trusts, what they want you to have maintained there. You've also committed fund balance for future capital projects of $1 million. Tax assessment appeals, $1 million have been committed, just like I was talking about with the tax. You have a dispute with a commercial taxpayer. A lot has been popping up, especially since the most recent assessment with Delaware County. And then the unassigned fund balance is $6.7 million, which represents 7.43% or within the 8% of the next year's $90 million 24-25 general fund budget. The next slide I want to kind of show here is, as I just put a little recap of, hey, what has our fund balance looked over the past 10 years? So as you can see, it's been pretty consistent. I think the district, since I've been working with the district, has really, managed its fund balance well, never to get too high, never to get too low. As you can see, it stayed in that $10 million range. There was a period of time when it did dip there a little bit, but the past couple of years with the extra stimulus revenue and the investment or the real estate transfer taxes, investment earnings, you've been able to get that back up to 10 million. So as you can see, back in 15-16 you're at 10 million, and now at the same time period 23-24 you're about the same. So you've been able to really manage your fund balance, not to get too excessive but not to get too low, and when it does get too low, you've been taking steps to get it to a place where you're within that 8% range allowed by the state. The next page here is I kind of highlighted out your capital projects fund balance, June 30th, 2024. Your capital projects fund is broken out into two main pieces, your capital reserve fund and your capital projects fund. The capital reserve fund is made up entirely of transfers over from the general fund. Historically, you've made some transfers over to that fund. None of those transfers were made during the current year. There were some projects that were going on. You had about $500,000 of projects in the current year, but that was mostly all offset by interest income, so it kind of was all paid with investment income during the year. And you still maintain about $7 million in your capital reserve fund for future projects. It's like kind of for smaller projects, not like building projects, like the high school, et cetera. So if there's something that's big enough that you can't run through the general fund, but you don't want to go out and borrow money as well, that's what the capital reserve money is for. Capital projects fund, that decreased during the current year, but that's primarily because you have issued bonds in the most recent years, and they're to build the high school, and then also you put $5 million out in the current year. There were some HVAC projects that you're doing district-wide. There's still $3 million sitting within the capital projects fund, which was going to be used for these HVAC projects throughout the district in the current year for 24-25. So overall, at the end of the year, there was still $10 million combined within the capital reserve and capital projects fund to be utilized, knowing there's a plan for the capital projects fund for the bond money, and then the capital reserve fund just as an in case. One of the last two slides here, schedule of findings and question costs. There was no findings related to internal control over financial reporting. The single audit, we're finally back to normal. We don't have to test the ESSER funds anymore, which is going to be nice for us because it was creating a little havoc in terms of getting us into our routine. So we're back to your major program being the special education program. The great thing about that program is there's so much oversight by the Delaware County IU, that the program's in really good shape in terms of when we finally get to audit it. So we had we had an unmodified opinion on compliance related to that. We evaluated the internal controls over that program as well and had no issue. And then also I'd like to point out there are different reporting requirements that the management has. Probably the biggest one being the annual financial report. I mean, I know everybody sees the printout version of the PDF, but it's kind of a bear of a report to do. They keep on adding more and more onto it every year. They want these additional schedules. So it's just kind of in a software, and it's, I can't explain, how difficult it is to do and to put it together because, it's taking the information from our audit report and then information from other matters and kind of combining, or from other areas of the business office and also from education and combining it all into one report. The financial statements are then going to be posted onto Emma to meet the bond disclosure requirements, and then also related to the single audit, we'll go ahead and, file that with the Federal Clearinghouse. And then finally, we're required to make certain required communications with the board as part of our audit. There were no changes to any of your significant accounting policies or practices. If you remember, in the past couple of years, we have had some new GASBs, but no new GASBs during the current year. There was no changes to any of your significant accounting estimates. There were no significant unusual transactions. The financial statement presentations and disclosures remained the same. Like I just pointed out, no new accounting pronouncements in the current year. There is one for next year. We'll talk about that then. And then there was no alternative accounting treatments. Everything was done in accordance with United States generally accepted accounting principles. And that's all I have.
Any questions or comments for Carl? How long have you been doing this for us? A lot of years, right?
At this firm or the firm before that? Because I was gone, and I went to...
Wait, you weren't, how long were you gone? Only a year, right?
Yeah, about 1 or 2 years. Yeah, something like that. Soon gone. But,
I mean, you've been here
We've seen Carl before.
long.
Yeah.
No, I know. I'm just wondering, is it 10 years? Is it 12 years? How long?
I don't
Carl might have been here a few longer
I think
than
it's
a few
been
of us.
10, right?
It's been that long ago.
I don't know.
I don't know. I really don't know, to tell you the truth.
find out
If
and let
it has
me
been a
know?
while.
Carl, thanks a lot for going through this and presenting
Yeah,
this
yeah.
tonight and pushing us all through. I know it was a little bit of challenges this year getting some stuff done, but
Oh, yeah. So I forgot to bring that up. We merged with the national firm on April 1st. So you say, oh, we've been, with whatever, say we've been here for 10 years. But there were a lot of challenges, and we have fresh eyes looking at things in terms of a new firm. Even though it was very difficult for me to adjust to their processes, et cetera, but I think you're getting a better audit in terms of, our documentation, et cetera, too, as well. So,
Good.
good,
So.
good.
Well, we appreciate it.
I want to make sure you had anything else. you
No,
wanted to
go
ask.
ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you so much,
Yeah,
Carl.
yeah, no problem.
Remember, I'm the non-CPA.
Yeah.
So I appreciate this because I am not, this is not my skill set. So I guess I'm thinking of a previous, way it was explained to me, which I thought was really helpful for the public, is it's my understanding that we go through, and Deb, you can help me out here, right, that this is a process that we go through so the public can understand, right, that this is actually something we have for the board, right, to make sure that we go through this auditing process, right, to make sure that our financial systems are all in order and making sure that that team is doing a great job with showing that they are. I think the one thing that I've learned over the years, because, seeing Carl for so much and knowing that I'm not a CPA, is it took me a long time to understand what does unmodified mean, and I learned over the years that's a good thing.
Yes. Yeah, if there's any modifications to the
right.
report or additional language in the report, you don't want that. You just want the boilerplate report right out of,
Right.
the...
In my world, modified would be good.
Yeah.
So to me, it took me a while. So in other words, everyone, Deb and her team is doing a fantastic job. Is what the takeaway that I learned through this was that when we see an unmodified opinion, that's really good news. And I do wanted to personally thank you because I remember you were saying at the finance committee that you did go through this merger. So to be able to still do this, right, going through all that internal issues that you had, we appreciate it, and still being able to get this. I know that Joe was like really pushing. He wanted you to make sure that we're still doing this.
Yeah.
I think Deb, what are we the first district or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so still seeing up to our standards, right, that Deb wanted us to be one of the first. So we appreciate you working through some of that tenaciously, given some of the changes you had internally to still be able to deliver lists to the November meeting was greatly appreciated, Carl. Thank you.
Well, Joe's intimidating, so. I got a personal phone call.
A big teddy bear.
A personal phone call.
I like to do what he said. I like to have this done at the November meeting. Nicely.
Yeah, we appreciate that, Carl,
Yeah,
because
so-
we know you had a lot going on.
We put him on finance just to make that call. He has nothing to do with finance otherwise.
But thank you again, for the non-CPAs, thank you for making this, I know a lot of numbers, but straightforward and helpful, because it's a lot to go through, so thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Hey, Bruce, and
Yes.
just one more point. Just want to thank Debbie and her team. I mean, just going through an audit, it's a long process. It's a lot of extra work, a busy time of year. And I just want to thank her and her team for getting this all done. And as always, having a nice, clean report and making sure we have nothing to worry about up here.
Yep.
Keep it up, it's awesome, it's awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks again, Carl.
Okay, next up, we have the SSD Pillar Report. Ms. Flynn and Ms. Reckner.
In academics, last night, SHS inducted 91 members into the National Honor Society. This is our largest group of new members ever, and our NHS membership will increase to 164 representatives. Hats off to all of our students and Ms. Tanner, our sponsor. Not to be outdone, over 40 ETR students were also inducted into the National Junior Honor Society on November 12th. This is a wonderful achievement and so generous to our community, as members must also maintain personal volunteer hours throughout the year. Congratulations to those students and the staff who support them as well. We also had a successful professional development day on November 5th. At the elementary level, some of our staff worked on their PA Act 55 school safety trainings. Additionally, the staff worked on literacy instruction, and it's awesome to report that we've already seen staff implementing learning from these sessions. In service, there have been 2 fun turkey trots this week. The ETR turkey trot was held Wednesday, November 20th. Winners from each grade received a pie, and the students had an opportunity to purchase a t-shirt. The SHS Buddies Club held its turkey trot earlier today, and Buddies participated in a 1-mile fun walk or run on the track. Ms. Flynn?
Thanks, Nikki. So if you haven't heard by now, our football team is crushing it outside on the field. The football team defeated Garnet Valley last Friday night, 21-14, and is now hosting the district championship game versus W.C. Ruston. Westchester. Sorry. The game will be held tomorrow night. It starts at 7 in the stadium outside. $5 to get in, and it will be rain or shine. Likewise, winter sports have begun their tryouts, and I can't believe we're already talking about winter sports, but tryouts will start soon. Club signups will begin shortly at the elementary level. Students are looking forward to clubs to begin in January. Parents definitely keep an eye out for that. Signups go quick. In the arts at ETR, students are excited to take the stage in the musical Frozen Junior. This weekend, there are 3 shows that will be offered. Please contact the middle school if you are interested in purchasing tickets. Choral and orchestra and band concerts will be held over the next few weeks. It's a wonderful way to get into the holidays. They are usually fabulous, and so try not to miss those. Please visit the district website for dates, times, and locations. And that is the report for tonight.
Great, thanks, guys. Next up, we have the committee reports. First, we have academic and arts. Dr. Laughlin.
Yes, thank you, President Lord. Last Thursday, the Academics and Arts Committee met. There was as always, we started off the meeting with a review of the high school pillars report from our student representatives, had our principal reports, and then lastly, tagging on to what Dr. Hepp was saying, there was discussion around the blue ribbon process and what are the upcoming proceedings, so can't wait to see what those festivities are going to be. We will not meet in December. We'll be meeting again in January in 2025. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have facilities. Mr. Keenan.
Thank you, President Lord. Facilities also met last Thursday, 11/14. We discussed the closeout of the ETR projects, the air conditioning over the summer, including the damaged switchgear and remedies for that. We then moved on to the Service Life Extension Program, which is our overall capital planning process, and discussing future projects and their documentation, including the replacement of emergency generators at the schools, flooring, some roofing, and then we adjourned to executive session to discuss some contractual matters. That concludes my facilities report. We will also not meet in December.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have finance and audit. Mr. Sillo.
Thank you, President Lord. Finance and Audit met on Tuesday, November 12th. We met and we discussed the audit report as was presented earlier. We reviewed that. We discussed the fund balances and future planning and funding needs of the district and how we're going to reach those needs. We reviewed our current tax appeals and the status of some of the larger ones. And we had a discussion about our tax collector compensation. I also don't anticipate we will meet in December. I assume my plan will meet sometime in January, which will be announced.
Okay, thank you. Personnel did not meet. Policy. Mr.
Policy
Benveen.
Committee did not meet this month. However, we will be taking action on one of the policies we previously approved.
Okay, how about volunteer memorial?
Volunteer Memorial did meet this month. We were basically discussing where we're going next year with our memorial performance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Although board action is required, it is generally unnecessary to hold discussions on these items. With the consent of all members, they are therefore grouped and approval is given in one motion. In the event a board member wants to discuss any item, the board president will move it to the appropriate place on the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries 9-0. Next, we have items for board action. First up, we have the personnel report. Recommendation reads that the board approves the personnel actions as listed in the personnel report. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Ms. McCullough.
Thank you, President Lord. On this evening's personnel report, we have the resignation of 3 certificated staff members, the resignation of 2 non-certificated staff members, the employment of 2 long-term substitute teachers, the employment of 4 non-certified staff members, 3 family and medical leave acts, and 1 child rearing leave request. And that concludes this evening's personnel report.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries 9-0. Next up, we have board policy. Recommendation reads that the board approves the following policy for second reading. Policy 434, Formal Education Tuition Reimbursement Program. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Mr.
There have been no
Benveen.
adjustments or changes in this policy since last reading, and I suggest that we approve it.
Any questions for Don? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? Seeing none? Okay, the motion carries 9-0. Next up, June 30th, 2024, Springfield School District Audit Report. Recommendation reads that the board accepts the Springfield School District June 30, 2024 audited financial statement as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Maslowski.
Thank you, President Lord. So Mr. Hogan just presented the audited financial this evening, and upon board approval, this will conclude and finalize our 23-24 fiscal year. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Debbie? Seeing none, let's move to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries 9-0. All right. Next up, we have real estate tax assessment settlements. Recommendation reads that the board authorize and directs the solicitor to finalize settlements of the following real estate tax assessment appeals for the following years and amounts. Folio number 29-00-00730-01, 32 Yale Avenue, Morton Borough. We forgot to... For tax year 2024, an assessment of $47,376 and a fair market value of $72,000. For tax year 2025, an assessment of $44,280 and a fair market value of $72,000. This proposed resolution is a decrease of $124,424 below the 2024 assessment and yields a tax dollar loss of approximately $2,658 to our district for tax year 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Serini.
Thank you, President Lord. Both the property owners and the school district have the right to challenge the real estate tax assessment that the county tax assessment office assigns to a particular property. In this case, the property owner challenged it seeking a reduction in the assessment. We went through our normal process of engaging our school district appraiser, who is superb. He has been with us for a long time. It is nationally recognized, and he calls it like he sees it. So our longstanding policy and practice has been not to settle below what our district's real estate appraiser recommends for settlement. So we negotiated based on that, and the property owner conceded that our district's appraiser's number is accurate. That did result in a reduction in the assessment, and therefore $2,000 and some dollars would be lost in real estate tax dollars to our district. But importantly, we did not settle below our district's appraiser's number. So there is no sense in litigating this case further. It would be a waste of money, in fact, because the very best outcome we could get is the outcome that we have gotten, our real estate appraiser's number. So therefore, I'm recommending that our board settle this real estate tax appeal on that basis. Thank you, President Lord.
Any questions for Mr. Serini? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries 9-0. Next up, we have the liaison reports. First up, solicitor's report. Mr. Serini.
President Lord, given that I've just used up my budget of words for all of 2024, I do not need to make any report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have the DCIU board report. Mr. Hornberger.
Thank you, President Lord. This fall, early intervention specialized classroom teachers and speech therapists have been working closely with the teaching and learning department to implement the Tell Me AAC program, which stands for Teaching Early Language and Literacy through Multimodal Expression. This program is designed to address the communication needs of young students while incorporating literacy learning through storybooks. Students focus on core vocabulary identified in each storybook throughout their school day. At DCTS, all 567 senior students participated in the written pre-NOCTI test during the week of October 7th through 11th, 2024. These baseline scores will help the seniors prepare for the spring assessment. In the spirit of planning, our Skills USA teams met with their advisors to begin planning for the November competitions. The automotive technology teams completed part 1 of the Pennsylvania Automotive Association test and have started preparing for the Auto Dealers Association of Greater Philadelphia Tech Comp. Early preparations are being made for an upcoming expansion to the Fallcroft campus, and the next DCIU board meeting will be held December 4th at the Morton campus. This concludes the November DCIU report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the Delaware County Community College Board report. Mr. Sillo.
Thank you, President Lord, but I have nothing to report.
Okay. Excuse me. Future board meetings. Our next meeting and last meeting for the year will be December 5th, 2024. Just a reminder, this is a reorganization meeting, and then that is followed by our regular meeting. You've probably noticed that Dr. Barber isn't here tonight. He is actually out on the football field. We're hosting our friends, our St. Francis football team, and they're getting the opportunity to play under the lights tonight. And Dr. Barber happens to be one of their coaches, so he's out there helping out, which is pretty cool. We'll probably head out and see how they're making out after we're done here. Before and after each meeting, the board meets in non-public executive study sessions to discuss personnel, legal, and labor relation matters. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Everybody have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Okay.